Hello, welcome to the channel Our Day Stories. Sit back and listen to a new story. But don't forget to subscribe and like it.
If you have a story to share, send it to this email, revalife.stories@gmail.com. Eleanor, a vibrant and enthusiastic woman, had just finished preparing a delightful dinner for her family. Though she felt a surge of joy in her heart, she couldn't help but notice that the dinner was solely intended for the family members, with the wives being excluded. Despite this, she tried to remain positive. As she glanced over at her husband, Victor, and her father-in-law, they both nodded in agreement, signaling that the moment had arrived. Eleanor felt a sense of anticipation building up inside her. She knew it was time to address an important matter that had been on her mind. "All right, everyone," Eleanor began, her voice filled with determination. "I have something to share with you all." She rummaged through her bag, searching for the envelope she had prepared. Finally, she found it and held it up for everyone to see. Her mother-in-law, who had always been a dominant figure in the family, raised an eyebrow, curious about the contents of the envelope. Eleanor took a deep breath and said, "Mother, I found this. It's for me." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Eleanor, waiting for her to explain. She continued, "Inside this envelope lies a letter that holds my deepest desires and aspirations. My name is Eleanor, and when I married Victor at the age of 25, I was filled with hope and dreams." Eleanor's gaze shifted towards her 3-year-old son, a testament to the happiness they had experienced as a family. "We have been leading a joyful life together, raising our child with love and care. However, there's been one significant challenge that has persisted: my relationship with my mother-in-law." Recognizing the complexity of the situation, Eleanor chose her words carefully. She has always been the central figure in this family, often referring to herself as the lady of the household. As the only daughter-in-law, I unintentionally became her perceived adversary. Victor's father and his siblings, who genuinely cared for Eleanor, listened intently, realizing the difficulties she had faced. Eleanor continued, "Being surrounded by a predominantly male family, it has been challenging to navigate this dynamic. My mother-in-law expects me to conform to her ideals, as if I were competing for the title of lady." Eleanor's voice grew stronger as she expressed her thoughts. "But I know that my husband, Victor, has always supported me wholeheartedly. He has been a voice of reason, advocating for our choices as a couple." She looked at Victor, her eyes filled with gratitude. However, she couldn't deny the fact that Victor sometimes struggled to perceive the subtleties of the situation. Eleanor shared an example, focusing on their family meals. "During our visits to his parents' house, my mother-in-law insists on taking charge of the kitchen. Even when I offer to help, she dismisses my efforts, leaving me feeling excluded." Eleanor looked around the room, her eyes meeting those of her family members. "The dishes she presents on the table all look the same, and it's because I'm not allowed to contribute. It may seem trivial, but it signifies a deeper issue." As she concluded her heartfelt speech, Eleanor's words resonated within the hearts of her family. They recognized her struggles and the desire for harmony. With newfound understanding, they embarked on a journey to foster a more inclusive and supportive environment where Eleanor's voice would be heard and valued. Eleanor had no idea what lay inside the envelope she held. However, her mind wandered back to previous incidents that involved her mother-in-law's cooking. She vividly recalled the time she had unknowingly consumed a soup filled with small fish bones, causing immense discomfort. Another incident involved a dish with overly bitter garlic, which left a lasting unpleasant taste in her mouth. Feeling unwell, Eleanor's stomach churned, causing concern among her family members. "Eleanor, are you all right?" her husband asked worriedly. "I think I have a stomach ache," Eleanor admitted, trying to downplay her discomfort. Her mother-in-law, quick to jump to conclusions, chimed in, "Oh, so you don't like my cooking, do you?" Victor intervened, defending Eleanor. She said she's not feeling well. Stop it. But skepticism lingered. Maybe she's just pretending to be sick, someone muttered. Hey, stop. Don't treat an ill person like that, another family member intervened. Eleanor's frustration grew as the accusations continued. It's impossible, she pleaded, feeling isolated. Isn't it? Amidst the chaos, her husband's outburst surprised her. Fine, you're all on her side, he exclaimed, his frustration evident. We don't mean that, Eleanor's father-in-law assured, attempting to diffuse the tension. Eleanor, I made dinner for all of you. What's wrong? Eleanor, determined to ease the situation, reassured them, Don't worry, I'll eat it all. But her words fell on deaf ears as her husband suddenly intervened. No, you scared me, he exclaimed, snatching the plate of food from in front of her. Confusion filled the air as the husband discarded the food, leaving Eleanor in disbelief. What the hell? She gasped, shocked by his sudden actions. It's vinegar. It tastes so different from what I... Eleanor's words trailed off, her mind racing to recall a similar incident. It happened before, she finally blurted out. Her mother-in-law, feigning innocence, retorted, What? I didn't do anything. You must have misunderstood. Frustration consumed Eleanor as she desperately tried to explain the situation. No, it's not just this meat and potatoes. It's terrible. Her husband attempted to resolve the matter by offering the plate to his father-in-law, but his mother intercepted, taking the food from his hands. If it's that bad, you don't have to eat it anymore, she stated with a hint of smugness. That's not what I meant. I'm asking why Eleanor's food is so bad, Victor insisted, growing increasingly frustrated. I don't have any idea, Eleanor's father-in-law interjected, his tone filled with confusion. Eleanor's suspicions deepened. I think she did it, to sum it up, she muttered, her voice tinged with disappointment. Before tensions escalated further, Eleanor made a firm decision. Enough. I'm done. I'm never cooking the meals again. In the aftermath, Eleanor's mother-in-law neither admitted her wrongdoing nor offered an apology. Her husband, seeing the situation as an opportunity, decided to stop visiting his family altogether. Despite the peaceful remainder of the day, Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that something unimaginable was about to unfold, perhaps involving her mother-in-law somewhere in the near future. Eleanor had been away on a business trip and was returning to her hotel after a meeting when she witnessed an unbelievable sight. Her mother-in-law was walking hand in hand with a man in his 20s. Shocked and frozen in disbelief, Eleanor couldn't fathom what she was seeing. Determined to uncover the truth, Eleanor decided to follow them discreetly. They entered a cafe and sat down at a window seat, not directly facing each other, but rather side by side. Without hesitation, Eleanor took out her phone and started recording the interaction. As their faces drew closer, her heart sank. Overwhelmed by what she had witnessed, Eleanor couldn't bear to watch the footage. They left the cafe after half an hour and disappeared into a nearby hotel. The following day, once the kids were in bed, Eleanor turned to her husband, ready to confront him. Hey, you know what? Eleanor began, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. You wouldn't want to see your parents engaging in something so shameful, would you? Curious about his response, Eleanor gauged his reaction carefully. Deciding to spare him the pain, she offered, I was thinking of telling you, depending on how you feel about it. Her husband's response caught her off guard. I don't care, he said nonchalantly. Confused and hurt, Eleanor confronted him. You're okay with witnessing something so hurtful, even if it involves your own parents. He replied calmly, I could learn something from it. Maybe something is wrong with your parents. Eleanor clarified, No, nothing happened to me. With a heavy heart, she recounted the events of the previous day, revealing everything she had seen. Her husband seemed unfazed by the revelations. Oh, seriously? You took videos and pictures. Let me see, he requested. Reluctantly, Eleanor handed him her phone. As he viewed the footage, he expressed his disgust. "Oh my God, that's disgusting. I can't watch my mom doing that. How old does she think she is?" Eleanor was taken aback by her husband's lack of shock. "You're not shocked at all?" she asked, seeking reassurance. He responded calmly, "No, not at all. I mean, it's not her first time." Confused, Eleanor pressed further. "What? This has happened before?" Her husband explained, "It happened a long time ago. She used to cheat on my dad when she was traveling a lot, or so she claimed. But even then, my brother was still in middle school. Dad forgave her and they rebuilt their relationship." Realizing the extent of her mother-in-law's infidelity, Eleanor expressed her disbelief. "Oh, I see. Well, I guess they won't be rebuilding it anymore." Her husband offered a solution. "I'll have an agency look into it. Can we use the money for that?" Eleanor agreed, acknowledging that it would be worth the expense. "Of course, it's worth it. Thank you. I'll let you know how it goes." It took them a month to find an agency and obtain the results. When her husband saw the report, he was stunned. Determined to address the situation, he suggested taking the report directly to Eleanor's mother-in-law. Eleanor hesitated, questioning the necessity of such an action. "Why don't you just give it to your father and let him decide?" Her husband insisted, "That won't make us feel better. Eleanor, your mom did something terrible to you. Let's seek revenge. It's the only way I'll feel better." "I should do something for my beloved wife, shouldn't I?" Victor expressed, determined to take action. Eleanor looked at him with a mix of surprise and gratitude. Deep down, she wanted to witness her mother-in-law's reaction, to see her lose her composure in front of her. She couldn't help but commend Victor for his plan. "Good job, Victor," Eleanor acknowledged, appreciating his support. "Before we confront them, I think it's a good idea to inform my dad about this. It would be better than blindsiding him with the truth." Victor agreed, realizing the importance of handling the situation delicately. They decided to leave their son at Eleanor's parents' house for the weekend and headed towards Victor's parents' house. Upon their arrival, Eleanor's mother-in-law scolded her as usual, but this time, Eleanor remained unfazed. She knew that her mother-in-law's reign of torment would come to an end that day. The time for confrontation was set during a dinner, but unexpectedly, Eleanor's mother-in-law initiated an attack right from the start. Everyone, including Eleanor, Victor, and Victor's father, was taken aback. The atmosphere was tense, and silence enveloped the room. "Let's start the meal," Eleanor's mother-in-law announced, wearing a smug smile on her face. The three of them, Eleanor, Victor, and Victor's father, were momentarily frozen, unsure of how to proceed. However, Eleanor's determination didn't waver. She knew it was time to reveal the truth, despite the unexpected turn of events. "I just prepared the meal for the family members. Wives are not included, after all," Eleanor stated calmly, her heart filled with both joy and anticipation. Her husband and father-in-law exchanged glances, silently acknowledging Eleanor's plan. The moment had arrived. Eleanor took a pause and searched through her bag. Finally, she found what she was looking for. Holding an envelope in her hand, she turned to her mother-in-law. "Here it is, Mother. I found this." Her mother-in-law looked intrigued, accepting the envelope with a hint of curiosity. "Oh, you can be smart sometimes," she remarked, seemingly pleased by Eleanor's gesture. As her mother-in-law opened the envelope and glimpsed its contents, a sudden change swept over her. Her hands trembled, and her body shook uncontrollably. Eleanor's concern grew. "What's the matter?" Eleanor inquired, unable to hide her worry. "It's nothing," her mother-in-law replied, attempting to dismiss the issue. Eleanor pressed further, her voice filled with concern. "Is it really nothing? What did she give you?" Her mother-in-law's facade crumbled as she desperately tried to regain composure. However, her attempt was futile. In a moment of desperation, she reached for the rice with her chopsticks, but her trembling hands caused it to spill out of the bowl, one grain at a time. Eleanor's mother-in-law tried to divert the attention, claiming it was insignificant, but Eleanor's husband intervened, taking the envelope from his mother's trembling hands. "Give it back to me," she pleaded, her desperation evident. Unyielding, Eleanor's husband opened the envelope, revealing its contents. "What's this?" he asked, feigning ignorance. Eleanor's mother-in-law looked visibly disturbed as she realized the gravity of the situation. She urged him to check the other side, and upon flipping the report, her worst fears were confirmed. Pictures of her with various young men were displayed, depicting their companionship in intimate settings. Eleanor's husband couldn't help but comment, "That's interesting. It seems like an older woman paying for the company of a younger man." His tone was laced with a mix of sarcasm and disdain. With every passing moment, Eleanor's mother-in-law's desperation grew. She pleaded with Eleanor's husband to return the report, but he held his ground, maintaining control of the situation. The revelations had brought her true nature to light, and Eleanor knew that justice was finally being served. Taking a deep breath, Eleanor looked at her mother-in-law, her voice resolute. "That's enough, Mother. Your reign of torment ends today." In that moment, Eleanor felt a sense of closure, knowing that her revenge was not driven by malice, but by the need to protect her own well-being. "I thought my mother-in-law was having an affair with one young man, but the agency revealed something even more shocking," Eleanor stated, her voice filled with disbelief. "They discovered that she had relationships with multiple young men. You really don't learn, do you? I can't believe all my hard work was turned into something like this." Eleanor's husband, shocked by the revelations, attempted to downplay the situation. "Wait a minute, this isn't cheating. It's just for fun. You're not wasting that money on something like that." Eleanor stood her ground, her tone firm. "It's disgusting, and these guys are even younger than us. Oh my God." Adding to the conversation, Eleanor's brother-in-law, Edgar, and his partner, Joshua, expressed their collective disapproval. "By the way, including Edgar and Joshua, we all know about this now. We're cutting you off," Edgar declared, his voice laced with disappointment. Eleanor's husband faced consequences beyond financial support. "I'm cutting you off too," she added, determined to establish her boundaries. Attempting to justify her actions, Eleanor's mother-in-law spoke up. "Don't worry, all you have to do is accept it. I know you don't have enough money to pay me back." But Eleanor refused to succumb to her mother-in-law's manipulations. "In exchange, never show up in front of us," Eleanor asserted, unwilling to tolerate any further deceit. Her mother-in-law persisted, trying to minimize her actions. "Wait a minute, it's not just a casual date. I was just thinking of experiencing different worlds. Right, Eleanor? You go out to eat with another man sometimes, don't you?" Eleanor vehemently denied the accusation, her voice filled with conviction. "No, not at all. I don't spend money on men who aren't my family. It's such a waste. I would rather spend it on Victor or little John." Her mother-in-law's words became more venomous. "Don't you do this to me. You're also a woman, aren't you?" Eleanor stood her ground, unyielding. "Yes, I am. But what's your point?" Her mother-in-law made a spiteful remark, attempting to demean Eleanor's choices. "I'm saying it's never enough to be only a wife or a mother, isn't it?" Appalled by her mother-in-law's perspective, Eleanor retorted, "That's disgusting. Then why don't you stay single?" Her mother-in-law's retort was met with a strong response from Eleanor's brother-in-law. "Don't you insult Eleanor. She's not like you. We all know." Eleanor's husband took this opportunity to reveal a decision he had made. "Well, it's a good opportunity for me to tell you something. I was planning to divorce you when I retired. It's good timing." Eleanor's mother-in-law reacted with surprise, struggling to comprehend the gravity of the situation. "Huh? I forgave you when I found out about your affair a long time ago. You did not learn from it but kept doing the same thing. I knew it. Actually, on the days you were out, the dinner would be frozen food. You didn't think I would know, did you?" Eleanor's mother-in-law resorted to blaming others, evading responsibility for her actions. Eleanor couldn't help but interject, "It's all your fault. You were not with me. That's what you do. You blame everyone else." Eleanor's husband chimed in, revealing the true impact of his mother's behavior. "It's a miracle my songs turn out to be good with a mother like you. Yeah, that's because we three looked at you as a negative example. I think you're the reason Edgar and Joshua are still single. If you have a spouse like this, your life is seriously screwed." Eleanor's brother-in-law, Edgar, added, "Hey, oh, sorry. My bad. This person was that spouse once." Finally, Eleanor had had enough. "This is a good start. Now get out of my house. I'm not giving you any of my retirement money." Eleanor's mother-in-law pleaded for reconsideration, but Eleanor stood firm, ready to embrace a new chapter of her life, free from the toxic influence of her mother-in-law's actions. Following the tense confrontation and subsequent events, the situation between Eleanor's mother-in-law and her husband reached a breaking point. Eleanor's mother-in-law realized that the alimony she would have to pay, given her past actions, would significantly impact her finances. Contemplating the consequences, she turned to her daughter-in-law with a puzzled expression. Sensing her mother-in-law's uncertainty, Eleanor thought to herself, "Where is she going?" It soon became apparent that her mother-in-law had decided to retreat, likely returning to her parents' house. From that moment on, Eleanor's mother-in-law never returned to the family home. The divorce proceedings commenced, and Eleanor's mother-in-law was left feeling desolate and alone. She moved back in with her parents, but with the loss of her financial security, she became isolated from the younger crowd she once associated with. While living at her parents' house, Eleanor's mother-in-law found herself at a crossroads. Instead of allowing her to return to a comfortable lifestyle, her husband's grandparents insisted she find full-time employment. Eventually, she secured a job at a supermarket near her parents' home. In contrast to her mother-in-law's situation, Eleanor's father-in-law remained a generous and understanding man. Eleanor reflected on her mother-in-law's foolish betrayal, recognizing the depth of her mistake. Now that her mother-in-law was no longer part of the picture, the family found themselves in a state of perfect harmony. Eleanor's brother-in-law, Edgar, and his partner, Joshua, who had rarely visited before, began to show up more frequently. The atmosphere in the family improved, and discussions about marriage started to surface. Eleanor genuinely felt happy for them, witnessing their joy and growth. The newfound harmony within the family brought smiles to everyone's faces. Eleanor herself experienced an additional source of joy as she revealed her pregnancy with her second child. The future appeared bright, filled with hope and the promise of a loving and united family. With her growing family and the newfound harmony within her household, Eleanor made a firm commitment to prioritize her family above all else. Despite the challenges she had faced with her mother-in-law, she remained determined to create a loving and supportive environment for her children and husband. Reflecting on her mother-in-law's behavior, Eleanor couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and frustration. It seemed that individuals who engaged in extramarital affairs often lost their sense of reason, causing pain and turmoil within their families. On the brighter side, Eleanor's father-in-law could finally embrace a more peaceful and enjoyable life. Freed from the burden of his tumultuous relationship, he now had the opportunity to live his later years in tranquility. Eleanor wished him all the happiness and contentment he deserved, hoping that he could find solace and fulfillment in this new chapter of his life. As Eleanor embraced her expanding family and witnessed the happiness within her extended family, she was filled with gratitude. She realized the importance of cherishing the moments of joy, unity, and love that they shared. With her unwavering commitment to putting her family first, Eleanor looked forward to a future filled with precious memories and the continued growth of their bond. The moral of this story is that family relationships can be complex and require constant attention, compromise, and respect. Interactions among family members may involve conflicts, but it is important to prioritize open communication, understanding, and empathy. Betrayal and dishonesty can have long-lasting effects on family dynamics, highlighting the significance of trust and honesty. Ultimately, the story emphasizes the value of forgiveness, personal growth, and the power of choosing love and unity within the family unit. Leave your opinion on this story in the comments to this video.